Hello, friends and fellow bibliophiles. Welcome back to Cat's Novel Adventures. Today, I want to share with you everything I read in the month of October. Alas, October has come and gone, along with the spooky season. I had a rather ambitious TBR for the month of October, and I did not get to nearly all of the books that I had planned to read. However, the ones that I did read this month, I am very excited to talk to you about today. I participated in 2 readathons. I participated for the very first time in Victober, as well as in Hallowtween. I also participated in 2 book clubs, the Cozy Cottage Book Club, as well as Middle Grade March, and I completed a fall readathon called Fall Bookish Bingo. I read 4 novels, 1 novella, 1 graphic novel, as well as 3 picture books, which gave me 7 5-stars, 1 4.5 star, as well as a 3-star. I kicked off the spooky season with reading AutumnCrow High, Fresh Hell by Cameron Chaney. It's a spooktacular book. I vlogged my reading adventures with it as I welcomed October. I will leave a link in the description box below if you're interested in hearing my thoughts on why I gave it 5 stars. In celebration of Stephen King's birthday on September the 21st, I started the novella If It Bleeds from his collection, If It Bleeds. I did not finish the novella in September, so I had to carry it over to October, which is fine. I chose this particular story because his newest novel, Holly, was also released in September, and I needed to read this novella before I could read Holly. So, I love Holly Gibney. I think she is a fantastic character, and this short story features her and a case that she ends up getting embroiled in. It's almost like a sequel to The Outsider because the formidable foe that she encounters is similar to the one that she encounters in The Outsider. Unfortunately, getting involved in this situation or being a little bit too nosy not only puts her at risk, but also puts the people that she cares about at risk as well. This story gives us a little more insight into Holly's personal life. We're also introduced to some new characters who provide Holly with some compelling information that will help her contend with the antagonist of the story. The story kind of starts off at a jog's pace, and then it sprints into action, building tension until we get to that moment fraught with danger. I know that there's a whole novel devoted to Holly, so going into the story, I figured Holly would do okay, but I will say the ending was a little too neat. I'm not totally convinced it should have ended as nicely as it did. But there is an elevator scene that is both disturbing and gross. I myself would not have wanted to be in the elevator while it was happening. Just reading about it was a little unsettling. After teetering between a 4 and a 5, I decided to give it a 4.5. And I'm happy I read it, and now I'm even more excited to read Holly. Victober! Let's talk about Victober. This was my first time participating in this readathon. It was hosted by Kate at Books and Things, Roz at Scally Dandling About the Books, Kate at Kate Howe, Marissa at Blatantly Bookish, as well as Petra at Petra U. And I had a fantastic time. Now, I chose to read only 1 book for Victober, and that was the group read. And the reason for that is because it is a chunker. It is The Way We Live Now by Anthony Trollope. And oh boy, this was wonderful. I had the best time reading this, and I have to say thanks again to the host for creating a reading schedule, because even though I didn't stick with it as diligently as I should have, it did help me finish this book in October. The Way We Live Now is a brilliant Victorian novel. It is about Augustus Melmont, a French con man who arrives in London putting on airs as a wealthy and successful businessman. He brings along his wife as well as his unmarried daughter, and his arrival causes quite a stir among the classes. The novel is set in London and the surrounding countryside. There are a multitude of wonderfully drawn characters who at some point will cross paths with Augustus Melmont or his family. The upper class of society, they're not really quite sure what to make of him, but at the same time are kind of charmed by him. London society is in the midst of financial corruption, and there are quite a few characters who are trying to get rich quick. The young men of this novel, save for a couple of them, are quite lazy, in my opinion, and just want to live a lavish lifestyle. They're even trying to find an heiress, someone that they can take that young woman's money and make it their own. I just thought that was kind of crazy because it's almost like the tables are turned. Instead of the woman trying to find a rich husband, it's the young men trying to find a rich wife. But the women were also surprising to me because while they wanted to find a husband, some of these young women were marrying for love, not necessarily for social status or for the money, and they were trying to do it on their own terms. So I thought that was pretty surprising. This story has lots of scheming, plenty of debacles of the heart, and lots of misunderstandings. It is an entertaining melodrama. I cannot wait to check out the TV miniseries. I think it's going to be fantastic. This was my first Anthony Trollope novel, but it will not be my last. I absolutely love this story. It was a 5-star read for me. So in addition to participating in Victober, I was also participating in Hallowtween. This was hosted by Stormi at Storm Reads. She had a bingo board with 9 prompts, and I completed 6 of them. I actually even got a bingo. My bingo was achieved by creepy cover, green on the cover, as well as turn on the lights. And I'm just going to go through which prompts I completed and the books that I read for them. For the prompt of orange and black on the cover, AutumnCrow High, Fresh Hell by Cameron Chaney fits the bill. When you think orange and black, you think Halloween, and this has plenty of orange and black on the cover, and it also has lots of Halloween vibes. As far as creepy cover, I went with a delightfully dark picture book written by Neil Gaiman and illustrated by Dave McKeon, and that is The Wolves in the Walls. Lucy, she is convinced that there are wolves living in the walls of her family home. Unfortunately, her family, they're too preoccupied that they're not listening to her until the day the wolves actually come out of the walls. This is not only a scary and weird book, but it is also humorous and a lot of fun to read. McKeon's illustrations really mesh well with this tale. It's got a lot of atmosphere to it. Lucy also has a wonderful little pig puppet doll that she carries around. And when the wolves drive the family out, it's Lucy who has to figure out a way to face her fear so she can go back into the home to rescue her little pig puppet because she drops it when she's rushing out with her family. Her family, of course, they can't really come up with too many solutions of how they're going to take back their house. So again, Lucy has to have the courage to try to convince them that they need to take back their home. And it is through her courage that they're able to take that next step. Now, I will say that the wolves are supposed to be the villains in this story, but they are kind of hilarious in a way. They're up to all kinds of shenanigans. They're doing a lot of the things that the family was doing when they came out of the wall. So you've got some of the wolves that are playing musical instruments. Some of them are playing video games. It's just a lot of fun. I think it is a perfect read for the whole entire family, and it was a 5-star read for me. For the prompt of green on the cover, I read Dark Waters by Katherine Arden. This is the 3rd book in the Small Spaces series. It is following Ollie, Brian, and Coco as they're going on a sailing adventure with Ollie's dad and Coco's mom in the hopes that they might spot the Vermont's Loch Ness Monster. Of course, things go awry with interference from the Smiling Man, and they experience a lot of turmoil that has a fatal outcome. For the most part, I enjoyed revisiting the characters of Ollie, Coco, and Brian, and we have some new characters in the mix. Well, sort of new characters. Phil is a classmate, and we are introduced to him in the first book, Small Spaces. Phil's uncle is the captain of the boat that they're going to be taking out. Wasn't really quite sure how Phil was going to work into this. I mean, he is having some memories resurface of everything that they experienced in the first novel. And I guess I'm a little convinced that the reason he is put in here is because of how the novel ends on a cliffhanger, and he is going to help the rest of the series kind of progress. I have to admit, Dark Waters is my least favorite of the series so far. The Smiling Man really isn't that present. I mean, he's the one that's causing all of the mayhem, but you don't see him. And so the creepy supernatural elements are kind of missing. I also felt like the novel feels a little rushed and kind of all over the place. Ollie is not really at the forefront of the novel, and I'm kind of bummed out about that because Ollie is my favorite of the trio. I kind of think Katherine Arden is trying to have the novels a little more from each character's perspective. I didn't feel so much about that in Dead Voices like I do in Dark Waters, because I kind of felt like both Brian and Ollie had significant roles as well. But Ollie, I guess it's more from her perspective in Small Spaces, more from Coco's perspective in Dead Voices, and now Dark Waters is supposed to be more from Brian's, and he's kind of insecure and trying to figure out what his role is in his group of friends. So not really sure how that's going to play out, but I gave it 3 stars. It was fine. I mean, it was an enjoyable enough read. And with all that being said, I'm still excited about reading the next and final book in the series. For the prompt of Turn on the Lights, which was to read a book with a light source on the cover, I read Garfields Scary Tales, written by Jim Craft and illustrated by Mike Fence. This is a collection of 5 scary tales that include a midnight stalker, a terminal terror, a surprise package, a ghost's story, as well as a closet thing. Of course, our Garfield is up to his regular shenanigans, and he's all up in it. And of course, John and Odie are alongside of him whenever he gets in his little troubles or discovers things he's probably not supposed to be discovering. The illustrations are wonderful, and they capture the humor perfectly. Every tale has an element of fright and delight, and I think this is a wonderful collection for readers of all ages. I loved every story, but I will say that The Midnight Stalker is my favorite. So definitely 5 stars for Garfield's Scary Tales. For the prompt of Monster Mash, which was to read a book with a monster on a cover, I read Night of the Gargoyles, written by Eve Bunting and illustrated by David Wisner. When night falls, the gargoyles who watch from above all day come alive so that they can play. I don't know about you, but I find gargoyles fascinating. And in this haunting story, the gargoyles are mischievous. They creep on stubs of feet, land in sleeping trees, and swoop to where a fountain splashes. Bunting's writing is evocative, Wisner's charcoal illustrations are eye-catching, and together they create a very atmospheric story that has gothic vibes, but also some humor to it. I absolutely adore this picture book. I think it is perfect for the spooky season, and I think readers of all ages will enjoy it. It is definitely a 5-star read for me. My last prompt for Hallowtween was Face Your Fear, and that was to read a book with something that you fear on the cover. And I read The Graveyard Book, written by Neil Gaiman and illustrated by Dave McKeon. Yes, it's the same duo that wrote and illustrated The Wolves in the Walls. This is actually a reread for me, and it was also the middle grade March selection for October. So I'm so happy that I got to reread this story. It's been quite a while since I read it, and I absolutely love it. It is about a baby who barely escapes a heinous crime and ends up becoming a resident in a local graveyard. And the non-living residents of the graveyard decide to rally together, and they're going to take care of this baby and protect him from the evil that's lurking outside the graveyard gates. I absolutely adore Nobody Owens, Bod for short, and all his magical adventures in the graveyard. This story is terrifying at moments, but it's brilliantly written and it has some fascinating characters. Some of the characters are based on folklore, and I absolutely love their backstory as well. It's kind of told to you in an indirect way, but the clues are there for you. I also love the fact that Bod has a ghostly family has his best interest at heart. He makes lots of friends in the graveyard and a couple that are living outside of the graveyard. But there's always the threat. There's always that threat lurking out there because the person that created, or not created, but committed that crime has to finish the job. So he's always out there. And, Bod, as he gets older, he wants to experience more of life outside of the graveyard. This story has plenty of introspection about human suffering and the reality and inevitability of death. It also has a message of until death comes knocking on your door, that life is meant to be lived, that you need to go out there and live your life, and that you're going to experience both the pleasurable moments as well as the painful moments. It all, comes together for a very fulfilled life. I absolutely love this book. If you have not read The Graveyard Book, I would highly recommend it. I mean, it's just fantastic. I gave it 5 stars the first time I read it, and it remains 5 stars for me upon rereading it. For the Cozy Cottage Book Club, we read our first graphic novel, and that is Garlic and the Vampire by Bree Paulson. This book is absolutely precious. I was totally blown away by it. It is the story about a village of vegetable people, and our main character is Garlic, and that's Garlic on the cover. And she has a couple of mishaps happen at the beginning of the story, and it kind of makes her feel like she's less than, that she's not, able to keep up with the rest of the other vegetable people in the community, and she's not doing her part. Well, they get a new neighbor who has a penchant for blood, and they're all kind of afraid for the people that live in the town below them, because even though they're a village of veggie people, there is also a town that comes to their village to buy vegetables for them, and they are normal, regular people that could supply the newly moved in neighbor with plenty of blood. So the village decides we need to do something to protect not only our village, but also protect the town below. So Garlic gets kind of voluntold that she's going to be the one to go visit the vampire because, I mean, she is Garlic after all. And she is nervous as heck, scared out of her wits because she doesn't think she can handle it. But she's going to try to have lots of courage to carry out this mission that she is sent to. Oh my goodness, this is so precious. Garlic is precious. I love, love, love Garlic. Her facial features throughout the novel are just wonderful. Brie Paulson has a great way of capturing the emotions of the characters through her drawings. The color scheme throughout is wonderful, perfect for the autumn season. You really do have those autumnal vibes while you're reading it. I love Garlic's relationship with Witch Agnes, and she has a wonderful friendship with Carrot. Both of those characters are always encouraging her to not beat up on herself. It really is a story about friendship. It's a story about believing in yourself. It's about having courage. And I just absolutely adored it. I want to pick up the other book in this line with Garlic. I think it's called Garlic and the Witch. I don't know if this is going to be an ongoing series or not, but I think it was perfect for the Cozy Cottage Book Club to pick for our October read. Some of the illustrations just to me were wonderful because there'll be a part in there where character will gasp and it will have the word gasp, but it will also have the way the character reacts. So just the artwork alone is worth the price of the book, in my opinion. Anyway, I'm gushing a lot about it because it was a wonderful surprise for me. I don't read a lot of graphic novels, and so that's why I was very surprised with how much I fell in love with this one. But it was a 5-star read for me, and I think readers of all ages would absolutely enjoy reading it. Before I go, I do want to mention that I participated in a fall readathon that took place in September and October, and I participated both months. It was 25 prompts, and this was hosted by Sarah at Sarah Reads. It was Fall Bookish Bingo, and it was over on her Instagram. I had the best time participating in this readathon because it not only included reading books, but also doing fallish activities. Now, I did not complete all of the prompts. I didn't even make a bingo, but I still had an awesome time participating. I just loved some of the activities that I got up to, like reading on a day that it rains, or snuggling under a blanket, or having a favorite fallish beverage. But it was a lot of fun, and I hope that Sarah does it again next year because I would love to participate in it again. But as you can see, I did fulfill 15 of the 25 prompts. One of those prompts, of course, was the free space. But again, loved it, Sarah. Hope you do it again next year. Well, friends, that's a wrap on everything I read in the month of October. How about you? Have you read any of the books that I read in October? Or did you participate in Victober or Hallowtween or another October or fall readathon? Let me know in the comments below. You know I love seeing what you're reading and chatting with you in the comments. As always, thank you for stopping by. I appreciate you watching. In the meantime, stay amazing and be adventurous.